What if discomfort isn't something to avoid but the very key to unlocking your greatest potential? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. These words, written nearly 2,000 years ago, still hold a profound truth. The challenges we face, the moments of unease, the discomfort we so often resist, they are not obstacles to our growth but opportunities in disguise. Stoicism teaches us to lean into these moments, to embrace them fully, and to see them as the forge where resilience, presence, and clarity are shaped. Today, we're going to explore how discomfort can become your greatest ally, offering practical techniques rooted in Stoic philosophy to help you build strength, focus, and a deeper sense of purpose. Whether it's learning to detach from external chaos, staying present in the face of adversity, or finding meaning in the struggle, this journey will show you how to turn discomfort into a powerful tool for transformation. So, let's begin. Stoicism teaches us that not everything is within our power, but our response always is. This principle, often referred to as the Dichotomy of Control, is one of the cornerstones of Stoic philosophy. It's a simple yet profound idea. There are things we can influence and things we cannot. The key to embracing discomfort lies in recognizing this distinction and focusing our energy where it truly matters. As Epictetus once said, some things are in our control and others not. What's within our control, our thoughts, our actions, our choices, what's outside our control? The opinions of others, the weather, traffic, or even the outcome of a project at work. By learning to let go of what we can't change and directing our attention to what we can, we free ourselves from unnecessary frustration and anxiety. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're at work and a colleague takes credit for your idea in a meeting. Your first reaction might be anger or disappointment, natural emotions. But here's where the dichotomy of control comes into play. You can't control your colleague's actions or how others perceive the situation. What you can control is how you respond. Maybe you choose to address the situation calmly later, or perhaps you focus on ensuring your contributions are more visible in the future. The point is, by shifting your focus to what's within your power, you transform discomfort into an opportunity for growth rather than a source of stress. Now take a moment to reflect. Think about one thing in your life that feels out of your control right now. It could be a relationship, a career goal, or even something as simple as the way someone treats you. How might you shift your focus from what you can't control to what you can? This small but powerful shift in perspective is where the magic of Stoicism begins to take root. It's not about ignoring the challenges life throws at us. It's about meeting them with clarity, purpose, and a sense of inner strength. And that's how discomfort becomes not just manageable but transformative. What if preparing for the worst could actually make you stronger? At first glance, this idea might seem counterintuitive. Why would anyone want to dwell on negative outcomes? But Stoicism offers a powerful tool called negative visualization, a practice that involves deliberately imagining worst-case scenarios to build resilience and reduce fear. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." By facing our fears head-on, even in our minds, we strip them of their ability to overwhelm us. This isn't about pessimism, it's about preparation. It's about training ourselves to see challenges as manageable rather than insurmountable. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're worried about losing your job. Instead of pushing that fear aside, you take a moment to visualize what that worst-case scenario might look like. What steps would you take to find a new position? How would you adjust your finances? Who in your network could you reach out to for support? By walking through these possibilities, you're not just bracing for impact, you're equipping yourself with a plan. This mental rehearsal shifts your mindset from one of helplessness to one of readiness, and when you feel prepared, the fear of the unknown loses its grip. This technique isn't limited to career concerns. Think about a personal relationship that feels uncertain. What if the connection you value most were to change or even end? How would you navigate that loss? By visualizing this scenario, you might realize how much you've taken that relationship for granted, and that awareness could inspire you to invest more deeply in it now. Negative visualization isn't about dwelling on loss. It's about cultivating gratitude for what you have and building the resilience to handle whatever comes your way. Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to think about a current worry in your life. It could be something big, like a health concern, or something smaller, like an upcoming presentation. Close your eyes and imagine the worst-case outcome. Then ask yourself, what would I do next? How would I move forward? This simple exercise can help you see that even in the face of discomfort, you have the tools to adapt, to persevere, and to grow. That's the essence of negative visualization. It's not about fearing the worst, but about knowing you can handle it, and in that knowledge you find strength. What if every setback was a gift in disguise? This is the heart of Amma Fati, a Latin phrase that translates to love of fate. It's a Stoic concept that invites us to not just accept what happens in life, but to embrace it fully, seeing every event, good or bad, as an essential part of our journey. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything thrown into it." In other words, life's challenges, no matter how difficult, can fuel our growth if we choose to see them through the right lens. This mindset doesn't mean we ignore pain or pretend everything is perfect. Instead, it's about recognizing that even the hardest moments have the potential to shape us into stronger, wiser, and more resilient versions of ourselves. Think about a time when something didn't go as planned. Maybe you lost a job, ended a relationship, or faced a health scare. In the moment, it likely felt like a blow, something to resist or resent. But with time, you might have noticed how that experience taught you something valuable about your own strength, your priorities, or even your capacity to adapt. That's Amma Fati in action. It's the practice of looking back and saying, "This happened for me, not to me." And when we start to see life this way, discomfort stops being an enemy and becomes a teacher. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've been passed over for a promotion you worked hard for. It's easy to feel discouraged, even bitter. But what if you reframed that disappointment as an opportunity? Maybe it's a sign to reevaluate your career path, to develop new skills, or to explore a role that aligns more closely with your passions. By embracing the situation, not just enduring it, you open yourself to possibilities you might not have considered otherwise. This is the power of loving your fate. It turns setbacks into stepping stones. Here's another angle. Consider the unexpected turns life often takes: a move to a new city, a sudden change in finances, or even a global event that shifts the way we live and work. These moments can feel unsettling, even overwhelming. But when we choose to see them as necessary, as part of a larger story, we stop fighting against the current and start flowing with it. This doesn't mean we don't take action or strive for better outcomes. It means we approach life with a sense of trust, knowing that whatever happens, we have the capacity to grow through it. Now take a moment to reflect. Think about a challenge you faced in the past, something that felt like a setback at the time. How did it shape you? What did it teach you about yourself or the world around you? Often, the moments we resist the most end up being the ones that transform us the most. By embracing Amma Fati, we learn to see every experience, good, bad, or indifferent, as a thread in the tapestry of our lives, each one contributing to the bigger picture. And in that shift of perspective, we find not just resilience, but a deeper sense of purpose and peace. how can preparing for adversity actually make you more resilient? This question lies at the heart of a powerful Stoic practice known as Premeditatio Malorum, or the Premeditation of Evils. At its core, it's about anticipating challenges before they arise, not to dwell on fear, but to build mental preparedness. As Seneca once wrote, "The wise man looks ahead and prepares for what may come." This isn't about pessimism, it's about clarity. By envisioning potential obstacles, we train our minds to respond with composure rather than panic when those challenges inevitably arise. It's like building an emotional muscle, one that allows us to face life's uncertainties with steadiness and strength. Let's unpack this further. Imagine you're about to give a public speech. The thought of standing in front of a crowd might make your palms sweat or your stomach churn. Instead of avoiding that discomfort, Premeditatio Malorum encourages you to lean into it. What could go wrong? Maybe you forget your lines or the audience seems disengaged. By imagining these scenarios beforehand, you're not feeding your anxiety, you're disarming it. You're giving yourself the chance to prepare solutions, like practicing your speech more thoroughly or preparing a few engaging questions to involve the audience. When the moment comes, you're not blindsided by fear, you're ready to adapt. This practice isn't limited to public speaking. Think about competitive sports where mental toughness is just as important as physical skill. Athletes often visualize their toughest opponents, the most challenging plays, or even the possibility of losing. Why? Because by mentally rehearsing these scenarios, they're not caught off guard when they happen. They've already worked through the emotions and strategies needed to persevere. This kind of preparation doesn't just reduce anxiety, it builds confidence. It reminds us that we have the tools to handle whatever comes our way. Here's the beauty of Premeditatio Malorum. It doesn't just prepare us for failure, it helps us appreciate success. When we've imagined the worst, even the smallest victories feel more meaningful. That speech you gave, even if it wasn't perfect, you showed up and delivered. That game you played, even if you didn't win, you gave it your all. By preparing for adversity, we shift our focus from avoiding discomfort to embracing the process of growth. Now take a moment to reflect. What's an upcoming challenge in your life, big or small? Maybe it's a difficult conversation, a presentation at work, or even a personal goal you're striving toward. How might you use Premeditatio Malorum to prepare? What potential obstacles could you anticipate, and how might you respond? This simple exercise can transform the way you approach challenges, turning fear into focus and uncertainty into opportunity. Because when you're prepared, discomfort becomes less of a threat and more of a teacher, one that guides you toward resilience and growth. What if remembering death could make you more alive? It might sound paradoxical, but Stoicism offers a profound practice called Memento Mori, Latin for remember death. That does exactly that. Far from being morbid or pessimistic, this practice is a powerful reminder to live with intention and urgency. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once reflected, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These words cut to the heart of Memento Mori. By acknowledging the inevitability of death, we're prompted to focus on what truly matters, to let go of trivial distractions, and to embrace discomfort as a necessary part of living fully. Think about it. How often do we put off the things that matter most? We tell ourselves we'll chase our dreams someday, mend broken relationships when we have time, or take that leap of faith when the timing is right. But Memento Mori challenges this procrastination. It asks us to confront a simple truth: our time is finite. And when we truly internalize that truth, discomfort stops being something to avoid and instead becomes a catalyst for action. Why? Because discomfort often accompanies growth, and growth is what makes life meaningful. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've been dreaming of starting your own business, but fear of failure keeps holding you back. Now apply Memento Mori. If you knew your time was limited, would you let that fear dictate your choices? Or would you take the leap, embracing the uncertainty and discomfort that comes with it, because the alternative, never trying, feels far worse? This shift in perspective doesn't just motivate action, it transforms how we approach challenges. Suddenly, the discomfort of risk-taking becomes a small price to pay for the chance to live a life true to your values and aspirations. This practice also helps us prioritize. In the noise of daily life, it's easy to get caught up in things that don't truly matter: endless scrolling, petty arguments, or chasing approval from others. But when we remember that our time is limited, these distractions lose their grip. Instead, we're drawn to what's meaningful, spending time with loved ones, pursuing passions, and contributing to something larger than ourselves. Discomfort in this light becomes a guide, a sign that we're stepping outside our comfort zone and into a life of purpose. Here's a question to reflect on. If you knew your time was limited, what would you do differently? Would you speak your truth more openly? Take that trip you've been putting off. Forgive someone who hurt you. Memento Mori isn't about living in fear of death. It's about living in reverence for life. It's about using the awareness of mortality as a tool to strip away the noise and focus on what truly matters. And in doing so, we find that discomfort isn't something to fear. It's a reminder that we're alive, that we're growing, and that we're making the most of the time we have. What if choosing discomfort could make you stronger? It's a strange idea, isn't it? To willingly step into situations that make us uneasy, that push us out of our comfort zones. Yet, this is exactly what Stoics like Epictetus advocated. He once said, "Difficulties are things that show what men are." In other words, it's through challenges that we discover our true strength and resilience. Voluntary discomfort is a Stoic practice that involves intentionally seeking out small, manageable hardships to train ourselves for life's inevitable struggles. It's not about punishing ourselves or embracing suffering for its own sake. It's about building mental and emotional muscle, so when real adversity strikes, we're prepared to face it with calm and clarity. So, how does this work in practice? Let's start with something simple: cold showers. Waking up and stepping into icy water might not sound appealing, but it's a powerful way to practice resilience. That initial shock forces you to stay present, to breathe deeply, and to focus your mind. It's a reminder that discomfort is temporary and that you have the capacity to endure it. Over time, this small act of voluntary discomfort can help you reframe how you approach challenges in other areas of life. What feels unbearable at first becomes manageable, even empowering, as you realize you're capable of far more than you thought. Another example is fasting. Skipping a meal might seem insignificant, but it's an exercise in self-control and mindfulness. When you feel the pang of hunger, you're faced with a choice: give in to the discomfort or sit with it and observe it without judgment. This practice teaches you to separate your immediate desires from your long-term goals, a skill that's invaluable when facing larger challenges. It's not about deprivation. It's about learning to tolerate discomfort without letting it dictate your actions. The beauty of voluntary discomfort is that it doesn't have to be extreme. It can be as simple as taking the stairs instead of the elevator, walking in the rain without an umbrella, or even turning off your phone for an hour to sit with your thoughts. The key is consistency. By regularly exposing yourself to small doses of discomfort, you build a kind of mental callus, a resilience that helps you navigate life's bigger storms with greater ease. Here's a challenge for you. This week, choose one small act of voluntary discomfort. Maybe it's waking up 15 minutes earlier than usual, or resisting the urge to check your email first thing in the morning. Pay attention to how it feels: the initial resistance, the urge to quit, and the eventual realization that you're stronger than you thought. This simple practice can be a gateway to greater self-awareness and resilience, showing you that discomfort isn't something to fear but a tool for growth. After all, as Epictetus reminds us, it's through these small trials that we uncover our true strength. What if discomfort isn't the enemy but the teacher? This is the essence of cognitive reframing, a Stoic practice that invites us to shift how we perceive the challenges we face. Instead of seeing discomfort as something to avoid or resist, we can choose to view it as a catalyst for growth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the very obstacles that seem to block our path can become the stepping stones that propel us forward, if we choose to see them that way. This isn't just about positive thinking, it's about actively reshaping our mindset to find value in the struggle. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you've been avoiding a difficult conversation with a friend or family member. The thought of confrontation might feel overwhelming, even paralyzing. But what if, instead of seeing the discomfort as a barrier, you reframed it as an opportunity? Perhaps this conversation could deepen your relationship, clear up misunderstandings, or help you set healthier boundaries. By shifting your perspective, the discomfort transforms from a roadblock into a doorway, a chance to grow, to connect, and to create something meaningful. This practice is especially powerful when it comes to fear of failure. Many of us avoid taking risks because we're afraid of falling short, of not measuring up. But what if failure wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning? What if every misstep was a lesson, every setback a chance to learn and improve? When we reframe failure as feedback, it loses its sting. Suddenly, discomfort becomes a sign that we're pushing our limits, that we're daring to try something new. And isn't that where growth happens, right outside our comfort zone? Now, let's bring this into your life. Think about a struggle you're facing right now. Maybe it's a project at work that feels overwhelming, a fitness goal that seems out of reach, or a personal habit you're trying to change. How might you reframe that challenge as an opportunity? What could it teach you about resilience, creativity, or patience? This simple shift in perspective doesn't just make discomfort easier to bear, it transforms it into a tool for self-discovery and progress. Cognitive reframing isn't about denying the difficulty of life's challenges. It's about choosing to see them through a lens of possibility. It's about recognizing that every obstacle has the potential to teach us something valuable if we're willing to look for the lesson. So the next time you feel discomfort creeping in, ask yourself, what is this moment trying to show me? How can I use this experience to grow? Because when we stop running from discomfort and start learning from it, we unlock a powerful source of strength and transformation. What if stepping back could help you see the bigger picture? This is the essence of the Stoic practice known as the view from above, a technique designed to help us gain perspective by zooming out from our immediate struggles. Imagine, for a moment, looking down at Earth from space, seeing the vastness of the planet, the interconnectedness of its systems, and the sheer scale of existence. From this vantage point, our daily worries and conflicts can feel smaller, almost insignificant. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, often used this imagery to remind himself of life's grander context. He wrote, "Think of the universe as one living being with one substance and one soul." By shifting our focus from the narrow lens of personal discomfort to the vastness of the cosmos, we can reduce the weight of our struggles and find a sense of calm and clarity. Let's break this down. Think about a conflict you're currently facing. Maybe it's a disagreement with a colleague or a tension in a relationship. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to feel consumed by the problem, as if it's the only thing that matters. But what if you took a step back and imagined the situation from a broader perspective? Consider the millions of people who have faced similar challenges throughout history, or the countless lives intersecting with yours in ways you may never fully understand. Suddenly, the conflict feels less like an insurmountable obstacle and more like a small part of a much larger tapestry. This shift in perspective doesn't erase the problem, but it helps you approach it with a clearer mind and a lighter heart. The view from above isn't just about reducing stress, it's also about fostering gratitude and humility. When we recognize how small we are in the grand scheme of things, it becomes easier to let go of ego and focus on what truly matters. For instance, imagine you're stuck in traffic, frustrated and impatient. Now, picture the same scene from above, the cars moving like tiny ants, the roads weaving through cities and landscapes. From this perspective, the delay feels less personal, less urgent. You might even notice the beauty of the world around you, or reflect on the fact that you're part of a larger flow of life. This practice helps us move from frustration to acceptance, and from acceptance to appreciation. Here's a practical way to apply this technique. The next time you feel overwhelmed by a challenge, take a moment to pause and visualize the situation from a cosmic perspective. Picture the Earth spinning in space, the countless lives unfolding simultaneously, and the vastness of time stretching out before and after this moment. Ask yourself, how important will this problem feel in a week, a year, or a century? Often, this exercise reveals that what feels like a crisis in the moment is just a small ripple in the grand current of life. Now, let's bring this into your life. Think about a current challenge, something that feels heavy or consuming. Close your eyes and imagine looking at it from above, as if you were observing it from the stars. How does this perspective shift your feelings about the situation? Does it help you see solutions you hadn't considered before? By practicing the view from above, we learn to approach discomfort with a sense of curiosity and calm, knowing that even the hardest moments are just small pieces of a much larger, more beautiful puzzle. And in that awareness, we find not just relief, but a deeper connection to the world around us. What if writing could help you find peace in chaos? For centuries, Stoics have turned to journaling as a tool for self-reflection, clarity, and growth. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "The time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time." At first glance, this might seem like permission to indulge in leisure, but there's a deeper message here. The moments we spend reflecting, processing, and understanding our experiences are never wasted. Journaling is more than just putting pen to paper. It's a way to untangle the knots of our thoughts, to make sense of discomfort, and to uncover the lessons hidden within our struggles. Imagine a day filled with stress, a missed deadline, a difficult conversation, or a moment of self-doubt. These experiences can feel overwhelming in the moment, like a storm raging inside your mind. But when you sit down to journal, you create a space to process that chaos. Writing allows you to step back, to observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment, and to see patterns or insights that might otherwise go unnoticed. It's like holding up a mirror to your mind, revealing what's truly there beneath the surface. The Stoics believed that reflection is essential for growth. By journaling, you're not just venting emotions, you're engaging in a deliberate practice of self-examination. For example, you might ask yourself, what did I learn from today's challenges? Or how did I respond to discomfort, and how could I respond differently next time? These prompts encourage you to move beyond the surface level and dig into the deeper meaning behind your experiences. Over time, this practice helps you build resilience, gain clarity, and cultivate a sense of inner peace even in the midst of chaos. Let's make this practical. Start with a simple prompt. What is one challenge I faced today, and what did it teach me? Maybe you struggled with patience in a meeting or felt frustrated by a setback. By writing about it, you're not just acknowledging the discomfort, you're transforming it into a learning opportunity. You might discover that the frustration you felt was rooted in unrealistic expectations, or that the setback revealed a gap in your skills that you can now work on. Journaling turns discomfort into a teacher, helping you grow with each reflection. Now, imagine building this into a daily habit. It doesn't have to be lengthy or time-consuming. Even 5 minutes can make a difference. Over time, you'll start to notice patterns in your thoughts and behaviors. You'll see how you've grown, what still challenges you, and where you need to focus your energy. Journaling becomes a personal dialogue, a way to connect with yourself on a deeper level and to navigate life's ups and downs with greater wisdom and grace. Here's a challenge for you. Tonight, before you go to bed, take a few minutes to write about your day. What stood out to you, what felt difficult, and what felt rewarding. Don't overthink it, just let the words flow. You might be surprised at what you uncover, because when you take the time to reflect, you're not just processing the day's events, you're building a foundation for a more mindful, intentional, and resilient life. And in that process, you'll find that discomfort isn't something to fear, it's an invitation to grow. What if gratitude could transform your discomfort into peace? It's a simple yet profound idea, one that lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. While it's easy to focus on what's missing in our lives, the Stoics remind us that true contentment comes from appreciating what we already have. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, put it this way: "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This isn't about ignoring life's challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about shifting our perspective, finding value in the present moment, and realizing that even in discomfort, there are gifts to be found. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, isn't just a fleeting feeling, it's a practice. It's about deliberately turning our attention to the good, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. This shift in focus does more than just make us feel better, it builds resilience. When we train ourselves to see the abundance in our lives, we're less likely to be thrown off balance by setbacks or disappointments. We start to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to grow and appreciate the richness of our experiences. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're feeling envious of a colleague who just received a promotion. It's natural to feel a pang of dissatisfaction, even frustration. But what if, instead of dwelling on what you lack, you took a moment to reflect on what you do have? Maybe it's a supportive team, a skill you've honed over time, or even the freedom to pursue your goals in your own way. By focusing on these things, you're not denying your ambition. You're grounding yourself in gratitude, which can help you approach your goals with clarity and confidence rather than bitterness or resentment. This practice also helps us navigate moments of loss or change. Think about a time when something didn't go as planned, a project that fell through, a relationship that ended, or even a missed opportunity. It's easy to fixate on what went wrong, but gratitude invites us to look for what remains. Maybe the experience taught you something valuable about yourself, or perhaps it opened the door to a new path you hadn't considered. By finding the good in the midst of discomfort, we cultivate a mindset that's not only more resilient but also more open to possibility. Now, here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to list 3 things you're grateful for today. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. Sometimes it's the small, everyday things that matter most. A kind word from a friend, a moment of quiet in a busy day, or even the simple pleasure of a good meal. When we pause to notice these things, we remind ourselves that even in difficult times, there's always something to appreciate. And in that shift of focus, we find not just peace, but a deeper sense of connection to the world around us. Gratitude, as the Stoics teach us, isn't just a tool for feeling better. It's a way of seeing the world. It's about recognizing that even in discomfort, there's beauty, meaning, and opportunity. So the next time you feel weighed down by life's challenges, try this simple practice. Pause, reflect, and ask yourself, what can I be grateful for right now? Because when we choose gratitude, we choose a life that's richer, more resilient, and deeply fulfilling. What if a moment of pause could change everything? Imagine this: you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. The car in front of you cuts you off, and your first instinct is to honk, yell, or let frustration take over. But what if, instead of reacting immediately, you took just a few seconds to pause? That small space between stimulus and response is where the Stoic practice of the Discipline of Ascent comes into play. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it simply: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This discipline is about creating that pause, a moment to step back, reflect, and choose how we respond, rather than letting our emotions dictate our actions. At its core, the Discipline of Ascent is about awareness. It's recognizing that our initial reactions, anger, frustration, fear, are often automatic, almost instinctive. But they're not inevitable. By pausing, we give ourselves the chance to question those reactions. Are they helpful? Are they aligned with our values? Or are they just knee-jerk responses that might make the situation worse? This practice isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about understanding them and deciding how to act from a place of clarity rather than chaos. Let's bring this into a real-world scenario. Imagine you're at work and a colleague criticizes your idea in front of the team. Your first reaction might be defensiveness or even anger. But what if, instead of firing back, you took a deep breath and paused? In that moment, you might realize that the criticism isn't personal, it's about the idea, not you. Or perhaps it's an opportunity to clarify your thinking and improve your proposal. By pausing, you shift from reacting impulsively to responding thoughtfully, and that can completely change the outcome. This practice is especially powerful when it comes to managing anger. Think about a time when you felt wronged. Maybe someone said something hurtful, or a situation didn't go your way. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to lash out or spiral into negativity. But when you pause, you create space to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will reacting this way help or harm? Often, that moment of reflection reveals a better path forward, one that aligns with your values and preserves your peace of mind. Here's a challenge for you. This week, try incorporating the Discipline of Ascent into your daily life. The next time you feel a surge of emotion, whether it's frustration, anger, or even excitement, take a moment to pause. Breathe deeply, reflect on what's truly driving that emotion and how you want to respond. You might be surprised at how much power that small pause can hold. It's not about avoiding discomfort, it's about meeting it with intention, clarity, and strength. And in doing so, you'll find that the way you respond to life's challenges can transform not just the moment, but the way you experience the world. What if letting go could set you free? It's a question that challenges one of our most deeply ingrained habits: holding on. Whether it's clinging to expectations, outcomes, or even relationships, our attachments often become sources of suffering rather than fulfillment. The Stoics, however, offer a different perspective. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." In other words, the only constant in life is change, and our ability to adapt, to let go of what we cannot control, determines our peace of mind. This isn't about giving up or being indifferent. It's about releasing the tight grip we have on outcomes so we can embrace the present moment and respond to life with clarity and resilience. Think about it. How often do we attach our happiness to specific results? We tell ourselves, "I'll be happy when I get that promotion," or "everything will be better once this relationship works out." But life rarely unfolds exactly as we plan, and when it doesn't, we feel disappointment, frustration, or even despair. The Stoic practice of letting go invites us to shift our focus from the outcome to the process, from what we can't control to what we can. It's not about abandoning goals or desires, it's about holding them lightly, recognizing that the journey itself holds the real value. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've been working tirelessly on a project at work, pouring your energy into every detail. But despite your best efforts, the outcome isn't what you hoped for. The disappointment is real, but here's where the art of letting go comes in. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, you can reflect on what you learned, how you grew, and what you can take forward. By releasing your attachment to the result, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering and open the door to new possibilities. It's not about lowering your standards, it's about expanding your perspective. This practice is equally powerful in relationships. Consider a friendship or partnership that feels strained. Maybe you've been trying to fix things, clinging to an idealized version of how the relationship should be. But what if, instead of forcing an outcome, you let go of your expectations and allowed the connection to evolve naturally? This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control what's beyond your control. Often, this act of release creates space for deeper understanding, growth, or even a graceful parting if that's what's needed. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one thing in your life that you're holding onto too tightly? Is it a goal, a relationship, or even a belief about how things should be? By identifying what you need to let go of, you take the first step toward freedom. Because when we release our grip on outcomes, we create room for acceptance, growth, and even joy. The art of letting go isn't about losing. It's about finding peace in the midst of life's uncertainties and discovering that true freedom lies not in controlling the world, but in mastering how we respond to it. What if the present moment held all the answers? It's a question that cuts to the heart of Stoic philosophy, inviting us to shift our focus from the past and future to the here and now. Seneca, the great Stoic thinker, once wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." In other words, we often get so caught up in what's ahead or what's behind that we miss the richness of the present. But when we learn to ground ourselves in the now, we discover something profound. Discomfort loses its grip and clarity takes its place. The Stoic practice of presence isn't about ignoring life's challenges, it's about meeting them fully, without the weight of regret or fear. Think about how often we live in anticipation or reflection. We worry about what might happen tomorrow or dwell on what went wrong yesterday. But the truth is, the only moment we truly have is this one. When we embrace the present, we're not just escaping discomfort, we're transforming it. Anxiety, for example, often stems from imagining worst-case scenarios or replaying past mistakes. But when we bring our attention back to the present, we realize that most of what we fear hasn't happened yet and may never happen. This shift in focus doesn't erase our challenges, but it gives us the space to face them with steadiness and strength. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're feeling overwhelmed by a looming deadline at work. Your mind races with thoughts of what could go wrong, and the pressure feels suffocating. But what if, instead of spiraling into worry, you took a deep breath and focused on the task directly in front of you? Break it down into small, manageable steps. What's one thing you can do right now? By anchoring yourself in the present, you reduce the mental clutter and regain a sense of control. It's not about ignoring the bigger picture, it's about tackling it one moment at a time. This practice also helps us navigate emotional discomfort. Consider a moment of conflict with a loved one. In the heat of the argument, it's easy to get swept up in anger or defensiveness. But what if you paused and brought your attention back to the present? What's actually happening right now? Are you truly listening, or are you caught up in your own reactions? By staying present, you create space for understanding and connection, even in the midst of tension. Here's a challenge for you today. Set aside 5 minutes to practice presence. It could be as simple as sitting quietly, focusing on your breath, or fully immersing yourself in a routine task like washing dishes or walking. Notice the sensations, the sounds, the details you might usually overlook. When your mind starts to wander, as it inevitably will, gently bring it back to the present. This small act of mindfulness can be a powerful reminder that the present moment isn't just where life happens. It's where we find the clarity, calm, and strength to truly live it. Because when we stop chasing the future or clinging to the past, we discover that the answers we've been seeking were right here all along. What if courage wasn't the absence of fear, but action despite it? This is the heart of the Stoic understanding of courage, a virtue that doesn't demand we eliminate fear, but rather that we move forward even when it's present. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." In other words, courage isn't about debating or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about stepping into discomfort and embodying the qualities we admire even when it's hard. For the Stoics, courage isn't just a trait for heroes or warriors, it's a daily practice, a way of meeting life's challenges with integrity and resolve. So, what does this look like in practice? Think about public speaking, something many of us dread. The fear of judgment, of stumbling over words, or of not being good enough can feel paralyzing. But courage doesn't mean you're fearless, it means you choose to speak anyway. You acknowledge the discomfort, the butterflies in your stomach, and you take the stage because you know your message matters. It's not about erasing fear, it's about acting in spite of it. Each time you do this, you build a little more confidence, a little more resilience, and you prove to yourself that fear doesn't have to hold you back. Courage also shows up in the risks we take, whether it's starting a new business, ending a toxic relationship, or simply trying something outside your comfort zone. These moments often come with uncertainty, and it's easy to let fear keep you stuck. But the Stoic approach reminds us that growth happens at the edge of our comfort zones. When you take that leap, even if the outcome is uncertain, you're practicing courage. You're saying, "I may not know what's on the other side, but I'm willing to find out." And in doing so, you expand your sense of what's possible. Here's a challenge for you. This week, identify one fear you've been avoiding. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, reaching out to someone you admire, or even trying a new hobby that feels intimidating. Whatever it is, commit to taking one small step toward facing it. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture, just an act of courage that pushes you slightly beyond what feels safe. Because every time you do this, you're not just overcoming fear, you're building the kind of resilience that transforms discomfort into growth. And that's the true power of courage. It's not about being fearless, but about being brave enough to show up even when it's hard. What if calmness was your superpower? Imagine being able to face any challenge, criticism, failure, or even chaos with a steady mind and an unshakable sense of peace. This is the essence of equanimity, a cornerstone of Stoic practice that teaches us to maintain balance no matter what life throws our way. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In other words, true freedom comes not from controlling the world around us, but from mastering our inner world, our thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Equanimity isn't about suppressing feelings or pretending everything is fine. It's about cultivating a deep inner stability that allows us to respond to life's ups and downs with clarity and grace. Let's break this down. Think about a time when you faced criticism. Maybe it was a harsh comment from a colleague or a negative review of your work. Your first instinct might have been to react defensively, to fire back with anger or frustration. But what if, instead of letting those emotions take the wheel, you paused and responded with calmness? Equanimity doesn't mean you ignore the criticism or pretend it doesn't sting. It means you acknowledge the discomfort without letting it control you. You listen, reflect, and decide whether there's something to learn or if it's simply noise to let pass. This approach doesn't just diffuse tension, it empowers you to handle challenges with dignity and purpose. The same principle applies to setbacks. Imagine working tirelessly on a project only to see it fail. It's natural to feel disappointment, even grief, but equanimity invites us to see the bigger picture. Maybe the failure taught you something valuable about your approach, or perhaps it revealed a new path you hadn't considered. By staying calm, you create space to process the experience without being overwhelmed by it. This doesn't mean you don't feel the sting of failure. It means you don't let that sting define you. Instead, you use it as a stepping stone to grow and move forward. Here's a practical way to practice equanimity in your daily life. The next time you find yourself in a stressful situation, whether it's a heated argument, a missed deadline, or even a moment of self-doubt, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what's within my control right now? Focus on your thoughts, your actions, and your response. By grounding yourself in this way, you shift from reacting impulsively to responding intentionally. Equanimity isn't about eliminating discomfort, it's about meeting it with a steady hand and a clear mind. Now, here's a challenge for you. This week, choose one moment of stress or discomfort to approach with equanimity. It could be a difficult conversation, a challenging task, or even a personal struggle. When the moment comes, remind yourself that calmness is a choice, one that can transform how you experience the situation. You might be surprised at how much power you hold when you choose to stay steady in the face of chaos. Because when you master equanimity, you don't just navigate life's storms, you become the calm within them. What if adversity was the best teacher you never asked for? It's a question that might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's one the Stoics would argue is essential to consider. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, just as physical exercise builds muscle, the challenges we face in life build our mental and emotional resilience. Adversity isn't something to avoid, it's something to embrace, because it's through struggle that we grow stronger, wiser, and more capable of navigating whatever life throws our way. Think about it. When was the last time you truly grew without some level of discomfort? It's rare, isn't it? Growth often comes from moments of friction, when we're pushed out of our comfort zones, when we're forced to adapt, or when we're confronted with situations that test our limits. The Stoics believed that adversity isn't just a random occurrence, it's a necessary part of the human experience. It's the forge where character is shaped, where we learn patience, perseverance, and the ability to stay grounded even in the face of uncertainty. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've been working on a project for months, pouring your heart and soul into it, only to have it fail. The disappointment is real, and it's natural to feel discouraged, but here's where the Stoic perspective comes in. Instead of seeing the failure as a dead end, you can view it as a stepping stone. What did you learn from the experience? How did it push you to think differently or develop new skills? By reframing the adversity as an opportunity for growth, you transform it from a source of pain into a source of strength. This principle applies to personal struggles as well. Consider a time when you faced a major life challenge, a health issue, a broken relationship, or even the loss of a job. In the moment, it likely felt overwhelming, even insurmountable. But with time, you might have noticed how that experience shaped you. Maybe it taught you to be more compassionate, more resourceful, or more resilient. Adversity has a way of revealing our hidden strengths, showing us that we're capable of far more than we ever imagined. Now, take a moment to reflect. Think about a challenge you've faced in the past, something that felt like a setback at the time. How did it change you? What did it teach you about yourself or the world around you? Often, the moments we resist the most end up being the ones that shape us the most. By embracing adversity, we learn to see it not as an enemy, but as a teacher, one that guides us toward a stronger, more resilient version of ourselves. And in that shift of perspective, we find not just growth, but a deeper sense of purpose and peace. What if saying no to comfort could make you stronger? This is the essence of the Stoic practice of self-denial, a deliberate choice to step away from life's conveniences and pleasures in order to build resilience and inner strength. At first glance, it might seem counterintuitive. Why would anyone willingly give up comfort? But the Stoics saw self-denial as a form of training, a way to prepare ourselves for the inevitable challenges of life. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." In other words, growth doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of consistent effort, of choosing discomfort over ease in small, intentional ways. By practicing self-denial, we're not punishing ourselves. We're strengthening our ability to endure, to adapt, and to thrive even when life gets tough. So, what does this look like in practice? Let's start with something simple: reducing screen time. In a world where we're constantly plugged in, it's easy to lose hours scrolling through social media or binge-watching shows. But what if, instead of reaching for your phone the moment boredom strikes, you chose to sit with that discomfort? You might feel restless at first, even anxious. But over time, you'll notice something remarkable. Your mind becomes clearer, your focus sharper, and your capacity to sit with discomfort grows. This small act of self-denial isn't just about breaking a habit, it's about building mental fortitude, one moment of resistance at a time. Another example is avoiding luxury, even when it's within reach. Imagine you're at a restaurant, and instead of ordering the most indulgent dish on the menu, you choose something simpler. Or perhaps you decide to skip the extra coffee you don't really need, even though it's tempting. These choices might seem trivial, but they're powerful exercises in self-control. They remind us that we don't need every comfort to be happy, and that true satisfaction often comes from moderation rather than excess. By denying ourselves small pleasures, we train our minds to handle larger sacrifices with grace and resilience. Now here's a challenge for you. This week, try one act of self-denial. It could be as simple as turning off notifications for a day, skipping dessert, or even taking a cold shower. Pay attention to how it feels: the initial resistance, the discomfort, and the eventual sense of accomplishment. What does it teach you about your ability to endure? How does it shift your perspective on what you truly need to be content? These small acts of self-denial aren't just about building resilience, they're about rediscovering your own strength and proving to yourself that you're capable of far more than you think. Because when you learn to say no to comfort, you open the door to a deeper, more enduring kind of strength, one that stays with you no matter what life throws your way. What if wisdom was the key to handling life's challenges? It's a question that cuts to the heart of Stoic philosophy, inviting us to consider how the virtue of wisdom can guide us through discomfort and uncertainty. Wisdom, for the Stoics, isn't just about knowledge or intelligence, it's about discernment. It's the ability to see clearly, to make thoughtful decisions even in the midst of chaos, and to align our actions with what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, the quality of our decisions shapes who we are. When we cultivate wisdom, we're not just solving problems, we're transforming ourselves. So, how does wisdom help us navigate discomfort? Think about a moment when you faced a tough decision. Maybe it was choosing between two job offers, ending a relationship, or even deciding how to respond to criticism. In those moments, wisdom helps us step back and see the bigger picture. It reminds us to consider not just the immediate outcome, but the long-term consequences. It asks us to reflect on our values, our goals, and the kind of person we want to become. Wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions and approaching challenges with clarity and intention. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're in a heated argument with a friend or family member. emotions are running high, and it's tempting to lash out or retreat into defensiveness. But wisdom invites you to pause. What's really at stake here? Is this argument worth damaging the relationship? What might a calm, thoughtful response look like? By applying wisdom, you shift from reacting impulsively to responding with purpose. You create space for understanding, for empathy, and for finding common ground. Wisdom doesn't erase the discomfort of conflict. It helps us navigate it in a way that strengthens rather than fractures our connections. Here's another angle. Consider a time when you had to make a difficult choice, perhaps between staying in a comfortable but unfulfilling situation or taking a risk to pursue something more meaningful. Wisdom helps us weigh the pros and cons, not just in terms of external outcomes, but in terms of how each option aligns with our deepest values. It's not about choosing the easiest path, but the one that resonates with who we are and who we aspire to be. And in that alignment, we find not just clarity, but a sense of peace even when the path ahead is uncertain. Now, take a moment to reflect. Think about a decision you've made that felt wise, one that brought you closer to your values or helped you navigate a challenging situation. What made that decision wise? How did it shape your experience or your growth? By reflecting on these moments, we deepen our understanding of wisdom and how it can guide us through life's complexities. Because when we act with wisdom, we're not just making choices, we're shaping the kind of life we want to live, one thoughtful decision at a time. What if detachment could set you free from suffering? It's a question that challenges one of our most deeply ingrained habits, tying our happiness to specific outcomes. The Stoics believed that much of our anxiety and frustration comes from clinging to things we can't control, whether it's the opinions of others, the results of our efforts, or even the future itself. Detachment in the Stoic sense isn't about indifference or apathy. It's about recognizing what's within our power and letting go of the rest. As Epictetus once said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. In other words, true peace comes not from controlling the world around us, but from mastering our attachment to it. Let's break this down. Think about a time when you poured your heart into a project, only to have it fall short of your expectations. Maybe it was a presentation at work, a creative endeavor, or even a personal goal. The disappointment can feel heavy, even paralyzing, but here's where detachment comes in. Instead of tying your self-worth to the outcome, you focus on the effort you put in, the skills you developed, and the lessons you learned. By shifting your perspective, you free yourself from the weight of unmet expectations and open the door to growth. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting outcomes define you. This practice is especially powerful in relationships. Consider a friendship or partnership where you've been striving for a specific dynamic or outcome. Maybe you've been trying to fix the other person or force the relationship into a mold it doesn't fit. Detachment invites you to release that control. It doesn't mean you stop caring about the relationship. It means you stop trying to dictate how it should unfold. By letting go of your expectations, you create space for the connection to evolve naturally, whether that means deepening or even gracefully parting ways. Detachment, in this sense, isn't about losing, it's about finding peace in the midst of uncertainty. Now, let's bring this into your life. Think about one outcome you're currently attached to, something you're holding onto tightly, whether it's a career goal, a relationship, or even a personal ambition. How might you practice detachment in this area? What would it look like to focus on the process rather than the result? To let go of what you can't control and embrace what you can? This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce anxiety. It empowers you to approach life with clarity, resilience, and a deeper sense of freedom. After all, when we stop clinging to outcomes, we discover that true peace comes not from what happens to us, but from how we choose to respond. What if fairness could bring peace in chaos? It's a question that cuts to the heart of one of the most profound Stoic virtues, justice. For the Stoics, justice wasn't just about rules or laws. It was about how we treat others, especially when things get tough. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." In other words, our actions affect the whole, and true justice requires us to consider the greater good, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. This virtue isn't just about being fair when it's easy. It's about maintaining integrity in the face of difficulty, choosing what's right over what's easy. So, what does justice look like in practice? Imagine you're in a workplace conflict. A colleague has made a mistake that's affecting the team, and you have the choice to either call them out publicly or address the issue privately. Justice, in this case, isn't about seeking revenge or proving you're right. It's about fairness. It's about finding a solution that respects everyone's dignity and fosters a sense of unity even when tensions are high. By choosing to act justly, you're not just resolving the immediate issue. You're building trust and creating an environment where everyone can thrive. This principle extends beyond individual interactions to broader social justice as well. Think about how we respond to inequality or injustice in society. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of these challenges, but the Stoic approach reminds us that justice starts with small, intentional actions. It might mean standing up for someone who's being treated unfairly, advocating for change in your community, or simply listening to perspectives that differ from your own. Justice isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistent, thoughtful choices that reflect our commitment to fairness and equality. Now, let's bring this into your life. Think about a situation where you're currently facing a challenge. Maybe it's a disagreement with a friend, a difficult decision at work, or even a broader social issue you care about. How can you act justly in this moment? What would fairness look like even if it's uncomfortable? By reflecting on these questions, you're not just practicing a Stoic virtue, you're cultivating a mindset that values integrity over convenience, and that's where true strength lies. Justice, as the Stoics teach us, isn't just a moral ideal, it's a practical tool for navigating life's complexities. It's about recognizing that our actions ripple outward, affecting not just ourselves but the world around us. And when we choose to act with fairness, even in the face of discomfort, we create a space where peace can flourish not just for others but within ourselves. So the next time you're faced with a difficult choice, ask yourself, what would justice look like here? Because when we act with fairness, we're not just solving problems, we're building a better world, one decision at a time. What if reflection could turn chaos into clarity? In the whirlwind of daily life, it's easy to get caught up in the noise, the deadlines, the conflicts, the endless to-do lists. But Stoicism offers a simple yet profound tool to cut through the clutter, the practice of reflection. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once advised, associate with people who are likely to improve you. At its core, this isn't just about choosing the right company. It's about cultivating the habit of looking inward, of sifting through the day's experiences to uncover the lessons hidden within. Reflection isn't just about reviewing what happened. It's about understanding how we responded, what we learned, and how we can grow. Think about it. When was the last time you paused to reflect on a difficult conversation or a moment of frustration? Often, we move so quickly from one task to the next that we miss the opportunity to learn from our experiences. Reflection gives us that pause. It's like stepping back to look at a painting. When you're too close, all you see are brushstrokes, but when you step back, the whole picture comes into view. By reflecting on our actions and reactions, we gain clarity. We see patterns, recognize triggers, and identify areas where we can improve. This isn't about dwelling on mistakes, it's about turning discomfort into insight. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you had a tough day at work. Maybe a project didn't go as planned, or a colleague's comment left you feeling undervalued. Instead of brushing it off or stewing in frustration, take a few minutes to reflect. What happened? How did you feel in the moment? Was your response aligned with your values, or could you have handled it differently? By asking these questions, you're not just processing the event. You're training yourself to approach future challenges with greater awareness and intention. Reflection, in this sense, is like a mental rehearsal, preparing you to respond more skillfully when similar situations arise. This practice isn't limited to work or conflict. Consider the small, everyday choices we make, how we spend our time, the conversations we have, even the thoughts we entertain. Reflection invites us to examine these moments with curiosity and honesty. Did that extra hour scrolling through social media bring you joy, or did it leave you feeling drained? Did the conversation with a friend deepen your connection, or did it leave you feeling misunderstood? By reflecting on these experiences, we become more intentional about how we live our lives, aligning our actions with what truly matters. Here's a challenge for you. Tonight, set aside 5 minutes to reflect on your day. It doesn't have to be formal or structured, just a quiet moment to ask yourself, what went well today? What could I have done differently? What did I learn? This simple practice can be a powerful way to end your day, grounding you in clarity and setting the stage for growth. Because when we take the time to reflect, we don't just navigate life's challenges, we transform them into opportunities to become wiser, stronger, and more aligned with who we aspire to be. What if moderation could bring you peace? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive in a world that often encourages excess. More consumption, more indulgence, more instant gratification. But the Stoics believed that true freedom comes not from having everything we desire, but from mastering our desires themselves. This is the essence of temperance, one of the core Stoic virtues. Temperance isn't about deprivation or living a joyless life. It's about finding balance. It's about recognizing that excess, whether it's in food, spending, or even emotions, often leads to discomfort rather than fulfillment. As Epictetus wisely said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. In other words, the key to contentment lies not in accumulating more, but in wanting less. Let's break this down. Think about a time when you indulged in something to the point of excess. Maybe it was eating more than you needed, splurging on something you didn't truly need, or even overcommitting yourself to the point of burnout. In the moment, it might have felt satisfying, but afterward, you likely felt a sense of regret or discomfort. Temperance invites us to pause before we act on those impulses. It asks us to consider, is this truly serving me? Is it bringing me closer to my values, or is it just a fleeting distraction? By practicing temperance, we learn to make choices that align with our long-term well-being rather than short-term gratification. So how can we apply this in practical terms? Let's say you're tempted to spend money on something you don't really need, a new gadget, a trendy outfit, or even an impulse purchase online. Temperance encourages you to pause and ask yourself, do I truly need this, or am I just chasing a temporary high? This small moment of reflection can help you avoid buyer's remorse and align your spending with what truly matters to you. It's not about denying yourself pleasure. It's about choosing pleasure wisely in ways that enrich your life rather than clutter it. The same principle applies to how we manage our time and energy. Think about how often we say yes to commitments out of obligation or fear of missing out, only to feel overwhelmed later. Temperance teaches us to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, and to prioritize what truly aligns with our goals and values. By doing so, we create space for what matters most, whether it's rest, creativity, or meaningful connections. Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on one area of your life where you can practice temperance. Is it in how you spend your money, your time, or even your emotional energy? What's one small step you can take today to bring more balance to that area? Maybe it's setting a budget for non-essential purchases, carving out time for rest, or simply pausing before reacting to a stressful situation. Temperance isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And with each small choice, you're not just avoiding excess, you're cultivating a deeper sense of peace and purpose. Because when we master our desires, we discover that true wealth isn't found in what we have, but in what we no longer need. What if silence could speak louder than words? In a world that's constantly buzzing with noise, endless notifications, conversations, and distractions, silence can feel like a rare commodity. Yet for the Stoics, silence wasn't just an absence of sound. It was a powerful tool for self-discovery and clarity. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, the quality of our inner world shapes who we are, and silence gives us the space to examine that world without interference. It's in the quiet moments that we can truly hear ourselves, process our emotions, and find the clarity we need to navigate life's challenges. So, how does silence help us handle discomfort? Think about a time when you felt overwhelmed. Maybe it was after a heated argument or during a period of uncertainty. In those moments, our minds often race with thoughts, replaying what was said or worrying about what's to come. Silence acts as a pause button, giving us the chance to step back and breathe. It allows us to sort through the chaos, to separate the noise from the signal, and to reconnect with what truly matters. Silence isn't about avoiding problems, it's about creating the mental space to face them with calm and focus. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're feeling stuck on a problem at work or in your personal life. Instead of frantically searching for answers or drowning out your thoughts with distractions, you step outside for a walk in nature. No phone, no music, just the sound of your footsteps and the rustle of leaves. In that quiet, your mind begins to untangle the knots of stress and solutions start to emerge. This isn't just a break from noise, it's an active practice of listening to yourself, of tuning into the wisdom that often gets drowned out by the noise of daily life. The Stoics believed that silence was essential for self-reflection. It's a way to step away from external influences and reconnect with your inner compass. Whether it's through meditation, journaling, or simply sitting quietly, silence helps us process our emotions and gain perspective on our challenges. It's not about escaping reality, it's about engaging with it more deeply with a clear and focused mind. Here's a challenge for you today: carve out 10 minutes to spend in silence. It could be as simple as sitting in a quiet room, taking a walk without headphones, or even just closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. Notice how it feels, the initial restlessness, the urge to fill the silence, and the eventual sense of calm. What thoughts or emotions rise to the surface? What insights emerge when you give yourself the space to listen? This small act of intentional silence can be a powerful way to reset, refocus, and reconnect with yourself. Because sometimes the answers we're searching for aren't found in the noise, they're waiting for us in the quiet. What if endurance was the key to overcoming life's greatest challenges? This is the essence of fortitude, a Stoic virtue that teaches us to stand firm in the face of discomfort, to persevere when the path feels impossible, and to find strength even when our energy is spent. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." In other words, it's through enduring difficulty that we grow, not in spite of it, but because of it. Fortitude isn't just about brute force or stubborn persistence. It's about cultivating the inner resilience to keep going, even when every fiber of your being wants to quit. So, how does fortitude help us navigate discomfort? Think about a time when you faced a challenge that felt insurmountable. Maybe it was a grueling workout, a demanding project, or even a personal loss. In those moments, fortitude is what keeps you moving forward. It's the quiet voice that says, "You can do this," even when the louder voices of doubt and fear are screaming to give up. Fortitude isn't about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging the struggle and choosing to keep going anyway. It's the difference between collapsing under the weight of adversity and using that weight to build strength. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're training for a marathon. The first few miles might feel exhilarating, but as the miles stretch on, your body starts to ache, your mind grows weary, and the finish line feels impossibly far away. This is where fortitude comes in. It's not just about physical endurance, it's about mental toughness, the ability to push through the discomfort, to focus on the next step rather than the overwhelming distance ahead. Each time you choose to keep going, you're not just building physical stamina, you're training your mind to handle life's bigger challenges with the same determination. This principle applies just as powerfully to emotional endurance. Consider a time when you faced a personal setback, a rejection, a failure, or a heartbreak. It's natural to feel defeated, to want to retreat and lick your wounds, but fortitude invites us to stay present, to feel the pain without letting it consume us, and to keep moving forward even when the path feels unclear. It's not about pretending the pain doesn't exist, it's about refusing to let it define you. Each step forward, no matter how small, is a testament to your resilience. Now take a moment to reflect. Think about a time when you showed fortitude, when you pushed through a challenge, even when it felt impossible. What kept you going? What did you learn about yourself in the process? Often, it's in these moments of endurance that we discover our deepest reserves of strength and realize that we're capable of far more than we ever imagined. Fortitude isn't just about surviving adversity, it's about thriving through it, emerging stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. So the next time you face a challenge, remember, the discomfort you feel isn't a sign to stop, it's a signal to keep going, because on the other side of struggle lies growth. What if simplicity could bring you peace? In a world that often feels cluttered with endless choices, obligations, and distractions, the Stoic practice of simplifying life offers a powerful antidote to discomfort. By stripping away the non-essential, we create space to focus on what truly matters: our values, our relationships, and our inner growth. As Epictetus wisely observed, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This isn't just a call to minimize material clutter. It's an invitation to examine where we're pouring our time, energy, and attention. When we simplify, we're not just clearing physical space, we're creating mental clarity and emotional freedom. Let's break this down. Think about how much of our stress comes from trying to juggle too many commitments, work deadlines, social obligations, family responsibilities, and the constant pull of technology. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, scattered, and stretched thin. Simplicity, in the Stoic sense, is about identifying what's truly essential and letting go of the rest. It's not about living a bare-bones existence. It's about aligning your life with your priorities so you can move through the world with greater ease and purpose. So, how can we apply this in practical terms? Start with decluttering, not just your physical space but your schedule as well. Look at your calendar and ask yourself, are all these commitments bringing me closer to my goals, or are they just filling time? Consider saying no to things that don't align with your values or contribute to your well-being. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being intentional. By reducing the noise, you create room for what truly nourishes you, whether that's quality time with loved ones, pursuing a passion, or simply enjoying moments of stillness. The same principle applies to material possessions. Take a moment to look around your home. How many of your belongings do you truly use or cherish? often, we accumulate things out of habit or societal pressure, only to find that they weigh us down rather than bring us joy. By letting go of what no longer serves you, you're not just simplifying your space, you're freeing up mental and emotional energy. Each item you release is a small act of reclaiming your focus and your peace. Now here's a challenge for you. Choose one area of your life to simplify this week. It could be your workspace, your social calendar, or even your digital habits. What's one thing you can let go of to create more space for what truly matters? As you do this, notice how it feels: the initial resistance, the relief, and the clarity that comes with letting go. Simplicity isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. It's about creating a life that feels lighter, more intentional, and more aligned with who you are. And in that alignment, you'll find not just peace, but a deeper sense of fulfillment. What if humility could make you stronger? It's a question that might seem counterintuitive at first. After all, humility is often associated with stepping back, not stepping up. But in the Stoic tradition, humility is far from a weakness, it's a profound strength. It's the willingness to acknowledge our limitations, to learn from others, and to grow through discomfort. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." At its core, this isn't just about avoiding retaliation, it's about rising above pettiness, ego, and pride. It's about embracing humility as a path to inner peace and resilience. Humility, in the Stoic sense, isn't about diminishing ourselves or shrinking from challenges. It's about recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. When we approach life with humility, we open ourselves to learning, even from situations that feel uncomfortable or humbling. Think about a time when you received feedback that stung. Maybe it was a critique of your work, a comment about your behavior, or even a hard truth from a loved one. In those moments, our first instinct might be to defend ourselves, to justify our actions, or to dismiss the feedback altogether. But humility invites us to pause and ask, is there something here I can learn? Even if the delivery wasn't perfect, could there still be a kernel of truth worth considering? Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're at work and a colleague offers constructive criticism on a project you've been pouring your heart into. It's natural to feel defensive, maybe even a little bruised. But what if, instead of reacting with pride or frustration, you responded with humility? What if you thanked them for their input, took a moment to reflect, and considered how their feedback might help you improve? By doing so, you're not just preserving the relationship, you're demonstrating a willingness to grow. Humility, in this sense, becomes a tool for transformation, turning discomfort into an opportunity for progress. This principle extends beyond professional settings. Think about a personal relationship where you've had to admit you were wrong. Maybe it was a disagreement with a friend or a misunderstanding with a partner. In those moments, humility can feel like swallowing a bitter pill, but it's also incredibly freeing. When we admit our mistakes, we're not just repairing the relationship, we're showing ourselves and others that growth is more important than ego. It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to evolve. Now, take a moment to reflect. Can you think of a time when humility helped you grow? Maybe it was accepting feedback that pushed you to improve, or perhaps it was admitting a mistake that ultimately strengthened a relationship. How did that experience shape you? Often, the moments that humble us are the ones that teach us the most, not just about the world, but about ourselves. Humility, as the Stoics teach us, isn't about shrinking, it's about expanding. It's about recognizing that every challenge, every critique, and every moment of discomfort holds the potential to make us stronger, wiser, and more grounded. So the next time you find yourself in a humbling situation, remember, it's not a setback, it's an invitation to grow. What if patience could transform your struggles? It's a question that invites us to reconsider how we approach life's inevitable delays and frustrations. In a world that often feels like it's moving at breakneck speed, patience can feel like a forgotten virtue, a relic of a slower, simpler time. But for the Stoics, patience wasn't just about waiting, it was about how we wait. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: time heals what reason cannot. In other words, some things simply can't be rushed, no matter how much we wish they could. Patience, in the Stoic sense, is about accepting this truth and finding peace in the process, even when the outcome feels uncertain or far away. At its core, patience is a form of resilience. It's the ability to endure discomfort without losing sight of the bigger picture. Think about a time when you were working toward a long-term goal. Maybe it was finishing a degree, building a business, or even healing from a loss. In those moments, progress can feel agonizingly slow, and the temptation to give up or rush the process can be overwhelming. But patience reminds us that growth doesn't follow a timeline. It's not about how quickly we reach the finish line. It's about how we move forward one step at a time, even when the path feels long and winding. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're waiting for the results of a job application or a creative project you've poured your heart into. The waiting period can feel like an eternity, filled with what-ifs and self-doubt. This is where patience becomes a tool for navigating uncertainty. Instead of fixating on the outcome, you focus on what you can control: your mindset, your preparation, and your ability to stay present. Patience doesn't mean you stop caring about the result. It means you stop letting the waiting consume you. You trust that in time things will unfold as they should, and that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. This practice isn't just about external outcomes, it's equally powerful in personal growth. Consider a habit you're trying to build or a skill you're working to develop. Change doesn't happen overnight, and the journey can feel frustrating, even discouraging. But patience invites us to celebrate small wins along the way, the incremental progress that often goes unnoticed. Each day you show up, even when it's hard, is a testament to your commitment. Over time, those small steps add up, and what once felt impossible becomes second nature. Now take a moment to reflect. Think about a situation in your life where patience is needed, whether it's waiting for a resolution, working toward a goal, or navigating a difficult relationship. How can you approach this moment with a Stoic mindset? What would it look like to embrace the discomfort of waiting, not as a burden, but as an opportunity to practice resilience and trust? This shift in perspective doesn't just make the waiting easier, it transforms it into a space for growth, clarity, and even peace. Because when we learn to wait with patience, we discover that the journey itself holds lessons we might otherwise miss. What if integrity could bring you peace in chaos? In a world where it's often easier to bend the truth or take shortcuts, the Stoic virtue of integrity stands as a beacon of clarity and strength. Integrity isn't just about doing the right thing when it's convenient. It's about staying true to your values even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. As Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." These words remind us that integrity begins with self-awareness. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and then aligning your actions with those principles, no matter the circumstances. At its core, integrity is a form of inner consistency. It's the bridge between our beliefs and our behavior, ensuring that we don't just talk the talk but walk the walk. Think about a time when you faced a difficult decision. Maybe it was choosing between an easy but unethical path and a harder but honest one. In those moments, integrity asks us to look inward and ask, what kind of person do I want to be? What legacy do I want to leave behind? It's not always the easiest choice, but it's the one that brings lasting peace because it allows us to live without regret or inner conflict. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're at work and you discover that a colleague has made a mistake that could harm a project. The easy route might be to stay silent to avoid confrontation or potential backlash. But integrity calls you to speak up, not out of self-interest, but out of a commitment to doing what's right. By addressing the issue honestly and constructively, you're not just protecting the project, you're upholding your values and fostering trust within the team. Integrity, in this sense, isn't just a personal virtue, it's a foundation for healthy relationships and communities. This principle extends beyond professional settings. Consider a personal situation where you've been tempted to compromise your values, perhaps to avoid conflict, to fit in, or to gain an advantage. Integrity reminds us that true strength lies in standing firm, even when it's hard. It's about recognizing that the discomfort of staying true to yourself is far less painful than the regret of betraying your principles. Over time, this practice builds a deep sense of self-respect and confidence, knowing that you've lived in alignment with your highest ideals. Now take a moment to reflect. Can you think of a time when you acted with integrity, even when it was difficult? Maybe it was telling the truth when it would have been easier to lie, or standing up for someone when it would have been easier to stay silent. How did that experience shape you? How did it feel to know that you stayed true to yourself, even in the face of discomfort? Integrity, as the Stoics teach us, isn't just about doing the right thing. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally does the right thing, even when no one is watching. And in that alignment, we find not just peace, but a profound sense of purpose and strength. What if acceptance could set you free? It's a question that challenges one of our most instinctive reactions, resisting what we don't like or can't control. The Stoic practice of acceptance invites us to do something radical, to stop fighting against reality and instead embrace it fully and without reservation. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together." These words remind us that life is filled with moments we didn't choose: illness, loss, unexpected changes, but how we respond to them is entirely within our power. Acceptance isn't about giving up or resigning ourselves to misfortune. It's about finding peace in the midst of what we cannot change. At its core, acceptance is a form of surrender, not to defeat but to clarity. When we stop resisting what's already happened, we free up energy to focus on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, our attitude. Think about a time when you faced a situation you couldn't alter. Maybe it was a sudden job loss, a health diagnosis, or even a relationship ending. In those moments, resistance often feels like the only option. We replay the past, wishing things were different, or we spiral into anxiety about the future. But acceptance asks us to pause and say, "This is where I am. What can I do with it?" It's not about ignoring the pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging the reality of the moment and choosing to move forward from there. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've been dealing with a chronic health issue. It's easy to feel frustrated, even angry about the limitations it imposes. But what if, instead of fighting against it, you chose to accept it as part of your current reality? This doesn't mean you stop seeking treatment or care. It means you stop wasting energy on resentment and instead focus on what you can do to improve your quality of life. Maybe it's adapting your routine, finding new ways to stay active, or simply cultivating gratitude for the moments of ease. Acceptance, in this sense, becomes a tool for reclaiming your power, not over the situation, but over how you experience it. The same principle applies to unexpected changes in life. Consider a sudden shift in your career, like being laid off or reassigned. It's natural to feel shaken, even fearful about what comes next. But acceptance invites you to see the situation as an opportunity rather than a setback. What new paths might this open for you? What skills or strengths might you discover as you navigate this change? By accepting the reality of the situation, you create space to explore possibilities you might not have considered otherwise. Acceptance isn't about passivity, it's about adaptability. Now here's a challenge for you. Think about a current struggle in your life, something you've been resisting or wishing were different. How might you practice acceptance in this situation? Start by acknowledging the reality of where you are without judgment or blame. Then ask yourself, what's within my control here? What can I do to move forward with clarity and purpose? This simple shift in perspective doesn't just reduce suffering, it opens the door to growth, resilience, and even unexpected joy. Because when we stop fighting against what is, we find the freedom to create what can be. What if compassion could ease your pain? At first glance, compassion might seem like a soft virtue, something reserved for moments of tenderness or care. But in Stoicism, compassion is far more than a fleeting emotion. It's a powerful tool for navigating discomfort, both for ourselves and for others. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." These words remind us that compassion isn't just about feeling sympathy. It's about taking action, about seeing the humanity in others and responding with understanding and care, even when it's hard. This virtue doesn't just soften the edges of life's challenges, it helps us move through them with greater resilience and connection. Compassion begins with understanding, both for others and for ourselves. When we face discomfort, whether it's a personal struggle or witnessing someone else's pain, our first instinct might be to turn away, to shield ourselves from the discomfort of empathy. But Stoicism teaches us to lean into that discomfort, to see it as an opportunity to connect rather than retreat. Think about a time when you were going through a tough moment. Did you beat yourself up, criticizing your mistakes and shortcomings? Or did you offer yourself the same kindness you'd extend to a friend? Self-compassion, in particular, is a radical act of resilience. It's about recognizing that discomfort is part of the human experience and treating ourselves with the same patience and care we'd offer someone we love. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're supporting a friend who's going through a difficult time. Maybe they've lost a job, ended a relationship, or are struggling with their mental health. It's natural to want to fix their pain, to offer advice or solutions, but true compassion starts with listening, with being present and acknowledging their struggle without judgment. Sometimes the most powerful act of compassion is simply saying, "I see you, I'm here for you." This kind of connection doesn't just ease their pain, it strengthens the bond between you, reminding both of you that you're not alone in facing life's challenges. The same principle applies to how we treat ourselves. Consider a moment when you've fallen short of a goal or made a mistake. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, what if you paused and asked, "What would I say to a friend in this situation?" Often, we're far harsher with ourselves than we'd ever be with others. But when we extend compassion to ourselves, we create space to learn, grow, and move forward without being weighed down by shame or regret. Compassion, in this sense, becomes a bridge between struggle and resilience, between isolation and connection. Now, take a moment to reflect. How can you show compassion today, whether to someone else or to yourself? It could be as simple as offering a kind word, lending an ear, or giving yourself permission to rest and recharge. Compassion isn't about grand gestures. It's about the small, intentional acts that remind us of our shared humanity. And in those moments, we discover that discomfort isn't just something to endure. It's an opportunity to connect, to heal, and to grow. By embracing compassion, we not only ease our own pain, but also lighten the load for those around us, creating a ripple effect of kindness and understanding that can transform even the hardest moments. What if mindfulness could bring you peace in chaos? In a world that often feels like it's moving at breakneck speed, the Stoic practice of mindfulness offers a powerful anchor, helping us stay present and grounded even in the face of discomfort. Mindfulness, in the Stoic sense, isn't about escaping reality or numbing ourselves to life's challenges. It's about fully engaging with the present moment, observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, and finding clarity amidst the noise. As Epictetus once said, man is disturbed not by things but by the views he takes of them. This simple yet profound insight reminds us that our suffering often comes not from the events themselves, but from how we interpret and react to them. Mindfulness helps us step back from those reactions, creating space to respond with intention rather than impulse. So, how does mindfulness help us embrace discomfort? Think about a time when you felt overwhelmed. Maybe it was a stressful day at work, a difficult conversation, or even a moment of self-doubt. In those moments, our minds often race with thoughts, replaying past events or worrying about the future. Mindfulness acts as a pause button, bringing us back to the here and now. It's not about ignoring the discomfort, it's about meeting it with awareness and acceptance. By staying present, we can observe our emotions without being consumed by them, creating a sense of calm even in the midst of chaos. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. Your first instinct might be frustration or anxiety, but mindfulness invites you to pause and notice what's happening in your body and mind. Are your shoulders tense? Is your breathing shallow? By tuning into these sensations, you can take a deep breath, relax your muscles, and shift your focus to what's within your control, like adjusting your schedule or using the time to reflect. This simple act of mindfulness doesn't just reduce stress, it transforms how you experience the situation, turning a moment of discomfort into an opportunity for presence and clarity. Here's another way to practice mindfulness. Try a body scan. Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and slowly bring your attention to each part of your body, starting from your toes and working your way up. Notice any areas of tension or discomfort and simply observe them without trying to change anything. This exercise not only grounds you in the present moment, but also helps you become more attuned to your physical and emotional state. Over time, this awareness can help you navigate discomfort with greater ease and resilience. Now, here's a challenge for you. Today, set aside 5 minutes to practice mindfulness. It could be as simple as sitting quietly and focusing on your breath, or taking a mindful walk where you pay attention to the sights, sounds, and sensations around you. Notice how it feels to be fully present, even if just for a few minutes. How does it shift your perspective on discomfort? What insights arise when you give yourself the space to simply be? Mindfulness, as the Stoics teach us, isn't just a tool for managing stress. It's a way of cultivating inner peace, one moment at a time. And in that peace, we discover that discomfort isn't something to fear, but an invitation to grow, to connect, and to truly live. What if perseverance could turn failure into success? It's a question that cuts to the heart of one of the most powerful Stoic virtues, the ability to keep going no matter how difficult the path becomes. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." In other words, life isn't always graceful or predictable. It's often a hard-fought struggle, filled with setbacks and discomfort. But it's precisely through this struggle that we build the resilience to achieve our long-term goals. Perseverance isn't just about brute force or stubborn persistence. It's about staying committed to what matters most, even when the odds seem stacked against us. So, how does perseverance help us overcome discomfort? Think about a time when you set a goal that required sustained effort. Maybe it was learning a new skill, completing a challenging project, or even training for a marathon. In those moments, discomfort isn't just inevitable, it's necessary. It's the friction that shapes us, the resistance that makes us stronger. Perseverance teaches us to embrace that friction, to see it not as a barrier but as a stepping stone. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about refusing to let failure define us. Each time we push through discomfort, we're not just moving closer to our goal, we're proving to ourselves that we have the strength to keep going no matter what. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're working on a personal project, a book, a business, or even a creative endeavor. At first, the excitement carries you forward, but as the weeks and months go by, the initial enthusiasm fades and the challenges start to pile up. This is where perseverance becomes essential. It's not about working harder or faster, it's about showing up consistently, even when progress feels slow or uncertain. Maybe it's writing a single page every day or refining one small detail of your project until it shines. These small, consistent acts of perseverance add up over time, turning what once felt impossible into something tangible and real. This principle applies just as powerfully to fitness goals. Think about someone training for a marathon. The first few miles might feel exhilarating, but as the race stretches on, discomfort sets in: fatigue, pain, doubt. Perseverance is what carries them through. It's the quiet voice that says, keep going, even when every muscle screams to stop. And it's not just about physical endurance, it's about mental toughness, the ability to focus on the next step rather than the overwhelming distance ahead. Each time they push through discomfort, they're not just training their body, they're building the resilience to handle life's bigger challenges. Now, take a moment to reflect. Think about a time when you persevered through a challenge, whether it was completing a difficult task, overcoming a personal setback, or simply staying committed to a goal when the going got tough. What kept you going? What did you learn about yourself in the process? Often, it's in these moments of perseverance that we discover our deepest reserves of strength and realize that we're capable of far more than we ever imagined. Perseverance isn't just about achieving success, it's about transforming failure into growth, discomfort into strength, and struggle into triumph. So the next time you face a challenge, remember, the discomfort you feel isn't a sign to stop, it's a signal to keep going, because on the other side of struggle lies the success you've been working toward. What if gratitude could light up your darkest moments? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive when life feels heavy, but Stoicism offers a powerful practice that can transform how we navigate adversity, finding gratitude even in discomfort. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, isn't about pretending everything is fine or ignoring the pain of difficult situations. It's about shifting our focus, even briefly, to what still holds value in our lives. As Seneca once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." In other words, when we anchor ourselves in gratitude, we find a deeper sense of meaning and resilience even in the face of hardship. So, how does gratitude help us in tough times? Think about a moment when you felt overwhelmed. Maybe it was a personal loss, a professional setback, or even a day when everything seemed to go wrong. In those moments, our minds often fixate on what's missing or what's gone wrong. Gratitude acts as a counterbalance, reminding us of what remains. It's not about denying the struggle, it's about creating space for both the pain and the good. By acknowledging the small blessings, a kind word from a friend, the warmth of the sun, even the lessons hidden in the struggle, we build a kind of emotional resilience that helps us endure and even grow through adversity. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've just lost your job, a situation that can feel devastating and uncertain. It's natural to focus on the fear, the financial strain, or the blow to your self-esteem. But gratitude invites you to look for the silver linings. Maybe this setback gives you the chance to reevaluate your career path, to spend more time with loved ones, or to develop new skills you've been putting off. By shifting your focus to what you still have, your health, your relationships, your ability to adapt, you're not ignoring the difficulty, you're reframing it. And in that reframing, you find the strength to move forward. Here's another example. think about a time when you faced a health challenge, perhaps an injury or illness that limited your abilities. It's easy to dwell on the frustration of what you can't do, but gratitude invites you to focus on what you can do. Maybe it's the support of a loved one, the ability to rest and heal, or even the newfound appreciation for the small joys of life. Gratitude doesn't erase the pain, but it helps us see the bigger picture, reminding us that even in the hardest moments, there are still things to cherish. Now here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on a current challenge in your life. What's one thing you can be grateful for in the midst of it? Maybe it's the opportunity to learn, the support of someone who cares, or even the strength you're discovering within yourself. Write down 3 things, no matter how small, that you're grateful for right now. This simple act doesn't just shift your perspective, it builds a foundation of resilience, helping you face adversity with a sense of purpose and hope. Because when we practice gratitude, we're not just enduring life's storms, we're finding the light within them. What if self-discipline could set you free? At first, it might sound contradictory. After all, discipline often feels like restriction, like saying no to what we want in the moment, but the Stoics saw it differently. To them, self-discipline wasn't about depriving yourself, it was about reclaiming your power. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it this way: "No man is free who is not master of himself." These words remind us that true freedom isn't found in indulgence or impulse, it's found in the ability to choose what's best for us, even when it's hard. Self-discipline, in this sense, is the bridge between short-term discomfort and long-term growth. It's the practice of aligning our actions with our values, even when distractions or temptations pull us in other directions. So, how does self-discipline help us embrace discomfort? Think about a time when you set a goal, whether it was getting fit, learning a new skill, or breaking a bad habit. The initial excitement might have carried you forward, but as the days went on, the effort required likely felt more and more daunting. This is where self-discipline comes in. It's not about willpower alone, it's about creating habits and systems that support your goals. It's about showing up consistently, even when the novelty wears off and the discomfort sets in. By practicing self-discipline, you're not just working toward a goal, you're building the resilience to handle life's bigger challenges. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you're trying to cut back on screen time, a habit many of us struggle with. Your phone pings with notifications, your favorite show is just one click away, and the temptation to scroll can feel overwhelming. Self-discipline doesn't mean you never indulge, it means you set boundaries and stick to them. Maybe it's turning off notifications during work hours, setting a timer for social media use, or designating screen-free zones in your home. These small acts of discipline, repeated over time, help you regain control over your time and attention. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes to resist distractions and focus on what truly matters. This principle applies to achieving long-term goals as well. Consider someone training for a marathon. The early mornings, the sore muscles, the days when motivation is low, these are all moments where self-discipline shines. It's not about pushing yourself to the breaking point, it's about showing up even when it's uncomfortable. Each time you lace up your shoes and hit the pavement, you're not just training your body, you're training your mind to persevere, to prioritize long-term growth over short-term comfort. Over time, this practice of self-discipline transforms discomfort into strength, turning what once felt impossible into a source of pride and accomplishment. Now here's a challenge for you. Think about one area in your life where you could practice self-discipline. Is it managing your time better, sticking to a healthier routine, or perhaps breaking a habit that no longer serves you? What's one small step you can take today to align your actions with your goals? Remember, self-discipline isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Each time you choose to act with intention, you're not just moving closer to your goals, you're proving to yourself that you have the power to shape your life, one disciplined choice at a time. And in that power, you'll find a freedom far greater than any momentary indulgence could ever offer. What if letting go of expectations could bring you peace? It's a question that challenges one of our deepest habits, the tendency to tie our happiness to specific outcomes. We often tell ourselves, "I'll be happy when I get that promotion," or "everything will be better once this relationship works out." But life rarely unfolds exactly as we plan, and when it doesn't, we feel disappointment, frustration, or even despair. The Stoic practice of releasing expectations invites us to shift our focus from the outcome to the process, from what we can't control to what we can. It's not about abandoning goals or desires, it's about holding them lightly, recognizing that the journey itself holds the real value. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." These words remind us that the only constant in life is change, and our ability to adapt, to let go of what we cannot control, determines our peace of mind. When we cling to expectations, we set ourselves up for unnecessary suffering. We create mental images of how things should be, and when reality doesn't match those images, we feel a sense of loss or failure. But when we release those expectations, we free ourselves from the weight of unmet desires and open the door to acceptance and contentment. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've been working tirelessly on a project at work, pouring your energy into every detail. But despite your best efforts, the outcome isn't what you hoped for. The disappointment is real, but here's where the art of letting go comes in. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, you can reflect on what you learned, how you grew, and what you can take forward. By releasing your attachment to the result, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering and open the door to new possibilities. It's not about lowering your standards, it's about expanding your perspective. This practice is equally powerful in relationships. Consider a friendship or partnership that feels strained. Maybe you've been trying to fix things, clinging to an idealized version of how the relationship should be. But what if, instead of forcing an outcome, you let go of your expectations and allowed the connection to evolve naturally? This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control what's beyond your control. Often, this act of release creates space for deeper understanding, growth, or even a graceful parting if that's what's needed. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one expectation you're holding onto tightly? Is it a career goal, a relationship, or even a belief about how things should be? By identifying what you need to let go of, you take the first step toward freedom. Because when we release our grip on outcomes, we create room for acceptance, growth, and even joy. Letting go isn't about losing. It's about finding peace in the midst of life's uncertainties and discovering that true freedom lies not in controlling the world, but in mastering how we respond to it. What if adaptability could make you unstoppable? Imagine being able to face any twist or turn in life with calm and confidence. Not just surviving, but thriving in the face of change. This is the essence of the Stoic virtue of adaptability, a skill that allows us to navigate discomfort with grace and resilience. As Seneca once said, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." These words remind us that life is inherently unpredictable, but our ability to adapt, to flow with the changes rather than resist them, determines how we experience the journey. Adaptability isn't about blindly accepting whatever comes our way. It's about finding opportunity within uncertainty and using it to grow stronger and wiser. At its core, adaptability is about flexibility, mental, emotional, and even physical. Think about a time when you faced an unexpected challenge. Maybe it was a sudden job loss, a move to a new city, or even a global event that upended your routine. In those moments, the ability to pivot, to adjust your plans, and to find new ways forward is what separates those who thrive from those who struggle. The Stoics believed that adaptability is a form of wisdom. It's the recognition that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. By embracing change rather than fearing it, we transform discomfort into a catalyst for growth. Let's bring this into a practical context. Imagine you've been working in the same industry for years, only to find that your role is being phased out due to technological advancements. It's easy to feel stuck, even panicked in this situation, but adaptability invites you to see this as an opportunity rather than a setback. Maybe it's a chance to learn new skills, explore a different career path, or even start your own business. By shifting your mindset from resistance to curiosity, you open yourself to possibilities you might not have considered before. Adaptability, in this sense, isn't just about surviving change, it's about using it as a springboard for reinvention. This principle applies just as powerfully to personal relationships. Consider a time when a friendship or partnership shifted unexpectedly, perhaps due to distance, differing priorities, or even conflict. Adaptability allows you to navigate these changes with grace, whether that means finding new ways to connect, setting healthier boundaries, or even letting go with compassion. It's not about forcing things to stay the same. It's about allowing them to evolve in a way that serves everyone involved. By practicing adaptability, we create space for deeper connections and more authentic relationships, even in the face of discomfort. Now take a moment to reflect. Think about a time when you successfully adapted to a challenge, whether it was a career shift, a personal change, or even a global event that required you to rethink your approach. What did you learn about yourself in the process? How did that experience shape your ability to handle uncertainty? Often, it's in these moments of adaptation that we discover our greatest strengths and realize that discomfort isn't something to fear. It's an invitation to grow, to evolve, and to become more resilient. By embracing adaptability, we don't just navigate life's twists and turns, we transform them into opportunities for growth and transformation. Throughout this journey, we've explored how discomfort, far from being an enemy, can become one of our greatest teachers. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, we've seen how challenges can be transformed into opportunities, moments to cultivate resilience, deepen our presence, and strengthen our ability to navigate life's uncertainties with clarity and purpose. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're practical tools that can help us grow, not in spite of discomfort, but because of it. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the understanding that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Whether it's through the Dichotomy of Control, which teaches us to focus on what's within our power, or through practices like negative visualization and Amma Fati, which prepare us for adversity and help us find meaning in it, Stoicism offers a roadmap for turning struggle into strength. It's not about avoiding discomfort, it's about meeting it head-on with courage and intention. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most enduring voices, once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." These words remind us that our mindset shapes our reality. When we choose to see discomfort as a teacher rather than a threat, we open ourselves to growth. We learn to detach from external outcomes and focus instead on our inner world, our thoughts, our choices, and our ability to respond with wisdom and grace. As we wrap up, I encourage you to reflect on how these principles might apply to your own life. Where are you resisting discomfort, and how might embracing it help you grow? What small step could you take today to practice resilience, presence, or cognitive detachment? Remember, growth isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Each time you face discomfort with a Stoic mindset, you're not just enduring it, you're building the strength and clarity to thrive. Finally, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you approach discomfort in your own life? What insights or challenges have you encountered along the way? Share your experiences in the comments below. This is a space for learning, growing, and supporting one another. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe and join our community of seekers and learners. Together, we can continue to explore how ancient wisdom can help us navigate the complexities of modern life. Thank you for watching, and remember, every challenge is an invitation to grow.